तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। वंदे गुरुर्मंडलम। Shivoham. In the last talk, we learned how the interplay of 5 elements becomes the basis of the creation of the whole universe that we experience. One thing we should keep in mind, that is, the 5 elements are not just the gross elements that we experience through our 5 senses, but they are parallelly present in subtle and even subtler forms as well. One can also understand the 5 elements as 5 types of vibrational energies. To oversimplify, we can say that this whole world is just an intimate play of energy and consciousness. However, it is not as simple as you may tend to believe. There are intricate rules that govern these elements, thereby regulating the process of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. Equally, there are rules for these energies according to which these operate in a specific life form. Swar Yog is concerned more about how these tattvas operate in determining human experience of this body, our psyche, and the dynamics of the world. Let's understand further verses to learn more about the mystery of 5 elements with Swara Vigyaan. The next verse is 145th verse. It states, वामे वा दक्षिणे वा अपि उद्ययाः पञ्चकीर्तिताः अष्टदाः तत्त्वविज्ञानं शृणु वक्ष्यामि सुन्दरी. It means the 5 elements rise in the left and right sides. Listen, O beautiful Parvati, I will now tell you about the 8-fold science of the 5 elements. All the 5 elements arise in sequence in both left and right nostrils. If you remember, in verse 71, we had discussed the sequence in which all the 5 elements arise in your nadis. If you have not yet seen the video or the previous videos, I request you to watch all the lectures from the beginning. The 71st verse says, first air, then fire, then earth, then water, and lastly ether or akash arises at both the sides. During the rising of each element, there are some subtle changes that take place at mental and physical level of the Swar Yogi. One may question that if the changes are subtle, then why do we need to pay so much attention to these? For this to explain, you must understand that the subtle always affects the gross in a profound way. The cause is always hidden and subtle, but the effect is manifest and expanded in the cause. Let's take an example to understand this concept. Thoughts are so subtle that they arise and subside continuously in our mind. No one can say that my head has become very heavy because it contains many thoughts. But our mental as well as physical well-being is continuously affected by the nature of our thoughts. Now, even the doctors have started accepting the idea of psychosomatic diseases. The subtle affects the gross in many ways that one may not be able to understand on a superficial level. Let's take the further verses and know the 8-fold nature of the tattvas. The next verse, that is the 146th verse, states, Prathame tattva sankhyanam dvitiye shvasa sandhyah tritiye swar chinhani chaturthe sthaname cha. It means the first is number of elements, second is junction of swar, third is symbol of swar, fourth is place of swar. Let's take the next verse to the 147th verse. It states, पंचमे तस्य वर्णाश्च षष्ठे तु प्राण एव च सप्तमे स्वाद संयुक्ता अष्टमे गति लक्षणम. It means fifth division is color, sixth is pran, seventh is taste, and eighth is indication of movement. The first division is number. In one another ancient text on Swar, it is mentioned that the 5 elements are the 5 faces of Shiva that carry the knowledge of the 3 worlds. The 5 faces of Shiva are Sadyojat, Vamadev, Aghor, Tatpurush and Isha. Not only the 5 elements arise in the Nadis, but also these 5 elements arise within each of the elements. For example, when the earth element is dominant, then earth within earth, water within earth, air within earth, fire within earth and space within earth also takes place. In this way, the divisions are 5 and 25 both. Let me assure you, the practical aspect of this elements within element is only revealed when you learn Swar Yog from an authentic lineage. The second division is junction or sandhi. It means the phenomenon of transition, that is when Swar changes into another and also when dominance of one element changes to another element. The third division is of the symbol connected to the element. Every element has a particular symbol that we will understand in the upcoming verses. Our students in the higher stage of Tattva Shakti Vigyaan practices are taught to use the power of these symbols in prediction, healing and spiritual growth. You at this level should understand that the symbol carries the energies of the element in the way of form or roop. The fourth division is on the basis of place or niyati. All the elements do not pervade the microcosm or the macrocosm in equal amounts at all places. At some places, earth is dominant. At some other places, water is dominant, and so on. One can understand the dominance of the elements according to the place too. This too we will understand in detail further. In fact, a Tattva Shakti Vigyaan practitioner who is also initiated in Swar Yog is capable of giving perfect Vastu advice, because Vastu is nothing but the science of aligning the Tattvic balance in a given place. The fifth division is color. Every element has its own specific color. Colors affect and influence us. We will understand in the upcoming verses about the colors of the 5 elements. In our tradition, we use some specific mandalas and colors to activate the Kundalini. The sixth division is Prana. For the beginner, Prana should be taken as energy or movement of life force within the body. But the higher practices of Swar Yog enable us to recognize the flow of all the 10 pranas in self and others. Even higher practitioners and masters can manipulate the prana of others to bring about instant healing and enlightenment. We have multiple examples of miracles that were shown by Datiya Swamiji Maharaj of our Guru Mandal. The seventh division is taste. The taste one feels is different during the dominance of each element. The eighth division is length of breath. The length of breath is felt by placing your finger near the nostrils. It is different for each element. I have here very briefly described the 8-fold science of the tattvas. I will take them up in detail in the upcoming verses. Let's take the last verse for the day, the 148th verse. It states, Evam ashtavidham pranam Vishwantam Characharam Swarat Partaram Devi Na Anyatha Tvam Bhujekshane. It means, Devi, these are the 8 categories of prana that pervade the animate and inanimate creation. There is no knowledge greater than the knowledge of Swar. Prana is said to have these 8 categories. It means that one can understand the quality of the prana by understanding these 8 categories. These 8 categories of prana are not only present in animate beings but also inanimate beings show the same qualities. For example, all herbs have some element as the dominant element, and that element decides the uses and applications of the plant. A yogi who chooses to investigate the herbs for their curing abilities decides it on the basis of the taste and the prana flow in the herb or plant. One can know the quality of anything and everything in this world just by applying the wisdom of these 8 categories. Swara Vigyaan is the only one that gives this profound knowledge of the universe, making it the highest form of knowledge. But what matters is from whom you are learning the science and how much is your commitment towards the Swar Sadhana. That's all for today. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I bow down to the divine sitting in your hearts. Shivoham.